Just to come back on those and thank the Minister for the answer. There were two that you missed. One is really, really important. We have a situation in Dublin where particularly single men are presenting or seeking to present as homeless. They're not able to access assessments in a timely manner. They're not able to access emergency accommodation, and therefore they are being forced to sleep rough for periods of time. Some of these people may not have presented to homeless services before. Some of these people may have come from other local authorities, but the reality is they're now here in Dublin, and therefore sending them back to a local authority would actually be in breach of the HSE's own public safety advice. So I'm urging you to sit down with your officials and the Dublin Regional Homeless Executive and resolve that problem. We're not talking about large numbers, but the very fact that people are being denied access to emergency accommodation where there is an extra volume of it, and staff in your own department and the Dublin Regional Homeless Executive have the names and dates of births of the individuals concerned, because I've forwarded to them. With respect to the research by the ESRI, the second part of the question was, if you are still in office, and you may well be, will you commit to engage with the sectors and with the opposition politicians on the way to deal with this? I have a real fear that we're going to see a very significant rent arrears debt burden. Look at the data from the ESRI already. Disproportionately the number of people affected by the loss of employment are young people and people in those sectors of the economy that have a tendency to be renters. Now, rent supplement is there, but your colleague in the Department of Social Protection is not doing enough to promote that payment. We have seen 3,000 extra claimants in the last 4 or 5 weeks. That surprises me. I thought it would have been larger. But I suspect we're going to have a real burden, and that's not just bad for the individual renters. That's bad for the landlords, it's bad for the rental sector, and what we don't want is when the restrictions are eventually lifted on notices to quit and evictions, that we have a significant increase both in landlords seeking to exit because they've lost money and tenants being issued with notices to quit. So there's going to need to be some rent arrears, debt burden resolution process put in place. And again, some of us have done some work on this. The last point I'll make, and the Minister will have maybe a minute to reply before my colleague comes in for his 4 minutes. I'm really concerned about local authorities. Cork managers were telling their elected members yesterday that they already have a €9 million shortfall from non-commercial rates. Now, I'm encouraged by some of what you're saying, but I suspect there's going to be some difficulties there. And I suppose what I want to hear from you is a commitment in as far as you can make it, that no local authority will be left with less money this year than they would have otherwise had, so that there are no losses to staff or no losses to vital frontline services.
I might ask you to make a commitment as well, though, to me, that if I'm in opposition and you're in government, you'll engage with the opposition on the ESRI report and rent arrears. Deputy, you're very kind. No, look, it's absolutely crucial that there is going to be a rent arrears problem in this state. It's not clear yet how big it is. That's why the ESRI are doing this work. I've had a number of engagements with both the tenant organisations, representative organisations and the landlord representative organisations. And it's in both sides' interests that we can manage this problem when it arises. We just need to know the scale of it and then see how best we're going to do that. Because absolutely, some of the people who were laid off the first in this crisis won't be able to recover any rent arrears they may have built up over that period. And so we don't want to be just pushing a problem of a notice to quit or something else further down the line, because that's not going to help them get back on their feet either. So that is something that will have to be looked at, absolutely. In relation to new people presenting and not being able to access emergency accommodation, there is an issue around some local authorities trying to use the Dublin Regional Homeless Executive as the solution for services that they have the funding and the people to deliver. And it's something that I'm reluctant to step into generally, Deputy, but if it's meaning that people aren't getting into emergency accommodation, if that's what it's meaning, and I don't know that if that is the case, but I mean, I'm taking out your bona fides, then that shouldn't be happening. And I'll address that as soon as I leave the chamber.